Hello, people of New World. It's me, Lemoni. Welcome back to the channel. Long time no see. It's been about 4 months. So I'm back. I'm here to make New World content. Expect guides, builds, New World stuff, wacky stuff, whatever it is. I'm here and I'm ready for it. I'm excited. There's probably tons of questions. There's comments people might want to make. We'll cover that in a separate channel update video. I got lots going on. I have lots to update on. So we're going to put that in a separate thing. But in short, I'm here, I'm back, and it's good to be back. So today I want to cover a little bit of a video for new players, people who are considering returning to New World for months and maybe just waited a little too long, people who are currently playing the game, and just kind of address the state of the game and kind of where things are at, where things are going. Ultimately, with the return to Aeternum and the fresh start servers, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of boom and a lot of popularity in the game that we did not see in the past, especially around the time I was taking my little hiatus. Now, I will say, even though I wasn't playing, I was still involved in the game. I was still learning, still got tons in my head, and there's a lot of stuff that I'm surprised nobody's doing yet. So be ready for some of that. Now, I'm going to kind of separate this video into sort of the fresh start, return stuff, and then go piece by piece throughout. I'll put bookmarks if you care to watch that section. If you want to just hear me rant, this might be a little bit longer of a video. I'm not quite sure yet because I'm just starting to record, but ultimately, there's a lot of great things in New World. So in short, if you're somebody that doesn't like my wordiness and I'm reading through my comments, you're like, hey, buddy, you're taking a little bit too long. Basically, here's where I'm at. I, for months, debated on never playing New World again and just continuing to watch from the sideline. And then I played. And once I played, I have itched every single day to get back on the game, thinking about what I can do, thinking about builds, thinking about the people I talk to, the community, everything, and being excited for the direction of the game, as well as where development is, as well as what's coming. So with that being said, if that's all you're going to take from this video, understand that I'm going to be promoting New World and saying, come back, give it a chance, and get excited for what it has to offer. So let's dive into each section, talking about sort of the details around what development is going on, or what the exciting parts of the game are currently. So let's get into it. I can say this just as I'm starting to record. I'm getting those warm and fuzzies from recording again, so it's a little bit different. It's exciting, and I'm very glad to be back. But ultimately, let's start off first with Return to Aeternum and Fresh Start. Obviously, there's a big event going on. I've been on the server. I haven't played as much as I would have liked to, so I apologize about that. I did want to make some content on it, but no matter what, when you look at something like the Return to Aeternum event, obviously they're sort of pinpointing on people who haven't been here in a while, or people that maybe put the game in the back burner. But when you start to look at what the Return to Aeternum event has to offer, we look at one. There's obviously a lot of big names who are playing. They might not necessarily stick around, but from everything I have watched, everybody is like, wow, this game is in a completely different spot. And quite honestly, the game is where it should have been at when it was released, but we're at year one. So what I always told my viewers was that when we were playing, we were playing through this early access version of the game. It wasn't where it should have been. There were a lot of bugs, a lot of clunkiness. Now it's finally at the point where the game should have been and would have seen a lot more success. And then what we saw was the game started to decline because of all those development issues, all that stuff going on. And now ultimately, when it's at that point where things have really started to change for the better, and now that we did an event like Return to Aeternum, everybody's stoked and everybody's excited. We start to see this upward trend. So what I can say about the event as a whole is, one, drops, always good, right? Drops are cool. I like getting skin. Two, there's a lot of coverage of the game that's bringing in new people, new opinions, and all sorts of new things that people wouldn't have seen before because they kind of just put the game way off and they're like, I'm never even going to touch it again. I'm not going to look at it. And so it's great to have an event like that. And what I think ultimately what I'd like to finish up about the event is that having an event like this is so good for the future. If you look at kind of like the very first initial events of New World to where it is now, there's a lot more going on, right? We're on like a completely private server. We're doing stuff in game, but it's also very interactive. It's got more going on. There's a competition. There's more people involved. You can get the viewers involved by giving them codes and getting them on the server. And I think that is just so good for the future of development. Now, fresh start servers. I am so excited about this. I'm going to make a fresh start character, start leveling them. I'll do some more leveling guide sort of stuff because it is still new, right? It only came out a little bit ago, right? But I think with those fresh start servers, the more exciting thing is that we really need to start to think about replayability, right? We need to think about what else can we do to keep people here, maybe to push off new content, but still make new content and recycle in a sense so that we have replayability of the old content that's still exciting and new. And so when you look at something like this, it screams seasonal content. I think that is going to be something that creates this constant itch for the game, constant excitement, and something that's still fresh, right? Fresh start, but isn't fresh. Everything I can see and what everybody's saying is I feel weird because I'm excited to get on and get a world tour in or go grind some expeditions and get my gear scores up. And I think that is incredible because it's that, hey, it's something new. I'm excited. And if you have aspects like that in the game, they're going to continue to develop cool aspects like that into the future. So I think in terms of replayability, new content, and development of new servers, especially in the idea of return to a term and fresh start, this is a great spot to project content into the future and get a solid player base with a much higher average population than we would have been used to for the long-term players. Now, in general, should you return to New World? So this is something that is sort of separate in a sense, right? Should you come back to your whatever server you were on your main character? 1000% yes. I came back, and anybody that's on my server, anybody that would have known me from the past that I've talked to has seen me playing the game. I've been in some wars. I started doing stuff. I started jumping in OPR right away. And I just had this weird nostalgia hit where I was like, it felt like riding a bike. I was happy. I was excited and just so excited for the new content, right? I went to Brimstone. I was like, wow, there's so much going on. You'll be seeing clips in the background of me just talking and just the new additions, right? I want to make a new video. There's going to be another video this week. It's going to be new things you'll notice right away when you come back to New World. And just off the top of my head, there's so many quality of life updates like salvage changes, ways to get trade skill experience, even something as simple as when I salvage my Azoth bottle, it does all of them, right? Stuff like that and gives me capped Azoth. But even then, combat fluidity, the game feels so good. There's new content. If you go into Brimstone, there's 2 new expeditions. The way that the meta has changed with the weapon skills or even changes to the weapon trees, the new addition of a weapon, you get into trading post changes with filtering, things that you wouldn't think are even that big are really big in the greater scheme of things. So many new crafting recipes. There's the instrument system. There's new gems. There's new daily grinds. There's all sorts of new quests and the way that they do quests. When you go out to Brimstone, you're doing your quests and you're seeing cutscenes. Are you kidding me? Cutscenes in New World? Like if I said this to somebody a year ago, like, hey, there's gonna be a cutscene, they'd be like, funny joke, right? It is completely different. And I think that's what the people who have played from day one all the way to now and never stopped, you see that potential and you see how much has changed. And it's so exciting. And so I think the ultimate sort of to encapsulate this return, should you come back, whether it's a fresh start, your old server, or the RTA event, yes, just do it. The game feels so good. It feels so different. And of course, yeah, there's always going to be the release day sort of bugs or whatever and what have you. But I applaud the development team that through all of the trash that has been thrown at them throughout the span of the year one, and so many people complaining, so many bugs, so many developmental things, that you have made something out of this that is its current quality. I applaud that. And I think that is just fantastic. And I think with all the content that's available, everybody is loving it. And there is so much for even a solo player, or if you can get into a company, that just makes this game fantastic. And I think the final thing I'd like to say is just that the community in general with the game compared to other MMOs, by far the best community I've ever played with. And especially the people I talk to, people I play with regularly, genuinely nice people. Everybody just, it's competitive, but it's fun, right? There's always that little bit of toxicity, but it's just a really good experience for any MMO player. All right, so I'm going to break this next section into leveling and questing because I did do some RTA stuff. I am going to start with a fresh start, and I experienced some of these initial changes. So the leveling experience just is better. It's better because every single quest that you do is not going to be, hey, kill and then pick up, kill and pick up, kill and pick up, kill and pick up the entire time, because they've added in variety with the leveling experience. And I know this is something they touched on a little bit throughout the patches, but I never made another character to really go see. And I think if you need some evidence of that, you simply just have to make a new character. And even the first quests that you're doing, You're already doing things that are more interactive than the entirety of the quest line from your initial 1 to 60 experience. You go through, you're like destroying corruption stuff. You have corruption taking over your mind. There's voices that you hear. You see cutscenes even in the beginning. And then to further that, even the towns are being revolutionized. If you start to go into something like Monarch's Bluff, the town looks completely different. Everfall, town looks completely different. I still haven't even gone around to look around at everything, but every single house and every single building looks different. Like Monarch's is a giant castle now. So the things that you're looking at are completely new. There's all these side objectives that pop up, like random things that can happen in the world. The enemies are different. There's more interesting combat coming from those PvE enemies. But I think in general, the leveling process, it was never that long, to be 100% honest. Yeah, you could grind through it just doing town boards. But the way that the leveling experience feels now, even if it is the same length, feels much shorter because of the variety that you're starting to see. And to further that, if you're somebody that's like, yeah, still, I don't like that MMO leveling process. They're starting to put in those double XP days. We haven't seen one in a little bit, I think, but double XP for trade skills, player XP, everything. And there's a lot of ways to get bonus XP and other ways to actually collect XP that you might not have in the past. In general, the leveling experience just feels fresh. It feels good. And I would highly recommend just jumping onto a fresh server so that you can start to level a second character and feel that and take your time through it. So please give it a shot, start to level and see what that experience is like too. I mean, the general questing experience, quest leveling system, everything just feels so good. Next thing, let's talk about game fluidity and then we'll start to get into combat. I want you, anybody that, even if you were somebody that has continued to play and then stopped for a while, and so you saw some of the changes and updates with the general fluidity of the game, but especially I'd be curious, anybody who never hit 60 and was contemplating coming back, game is completely night and day different. And right now, I was a person too. If you look back, probably I forget what month it would have been, maybe like around March or so, March or April, when they started to really work on some of that game stuff. And you'll see like lags and stutters that happened, or even if you look at live stream clips. And I've made videos saying the game feels so good, like better than ever before. And everybody knows I'm a very optimistic person when it comes to this game. And I'm also very critical. But I can confidently say I've had no lag, no stutters, nothing that's game breakingly just awful to deal with. It is simply when I'm PvPing skill versus skill. And it has always in the past been skill versus skill. And then for everybody, what's lag going to do to you? What's server desync going to do to you? What's the general clunkiness of the game going to do to you? And that is all eliminated. So whether it's movement, whether it's just climbing a rock, whether it's actually fighting something, your inputs are your inputs. They don't feel like somebody else is trying to fight you and play the game for you. And I think that was just a general distasteful feeling that a lot of people got. In general, the game's combat system, because of that improved game fluidity, feels so good. Like if I'm fighting anybody, I don't feel as though I'm getting completely gypped and getting clipped by random stuns, random things. The combat feels relatively balanced. I know anybody that knows me, I have an emote on my Twitch channel that's an IGGA with a guy eating a thing of glue. He's got a little glue in his pocket. He's going like this. Back when that was the meta, if you just go like that and you just sit in grav wells, it does not feel like that anymore. I don't feel bad about getting caught in an ice shower. I don't feel like any random stuff is hitting me or anything's broken right now. And then you start to get into combat wise. There's a whole new weapon. Okay, what sorts of broken things can we do with this weapon? And then even the biggest thing, if you haven't played, there's a trinket now, right? There you have a whole new button. I got back into the game and I jumped into a war, and then I realized it's like, oh, I only have this cannon, right? There's a couple different trinkets. You can upgrade them into a couple different ways, and it does completely change the way that you're able to play. For instance, like if I'm playing with Stoneform as a healer, I feel much more confident in using something like a VG than sitting with my secret overpowered thing that I'm going to have a video on, or a rapier. I feel like I could strictly run the VG with how fast that Stoneform charges, that I can use that. I've got 5 seconds and I'm super thick and I can get away and I'm not getting staggered. It's added this different dimension of the game that now opens up a bunch of different builds. or it just opens up, hey, there's another button, another thing to be aware of, or I see this person who's glowing and they're running at me. What's going to happen? And they explode. Okay, well, how do I counter that? What do I do about it? How can I use it? How do I even unlock it? And so there's these things in combat that feel so different yet feel so similar, but in a good way. I think that ultimately I'd like to say at the combat, it's a whole new world. And I know I'm going to keep emphasizing sort of the same aspects, and this is more of an internal monologue sort of video, but it's so different. And I think continuing with the combat, we start to get into PvP, wars, PvE. PvE, I'm still doing a bunch of PvE stuff, testing wise. That I haven't. I need to do a bunch of PvE stuff, like expeditions, dipping into those a bit. But the big thing for me, and if you're a New World player, it's always PvP and doing wars. Now you have those options, but the PvP combat and even the war system, I don't feel war lag. The wars that I have been in since then, everything feels great. It's fun to be in a war. I think that's one of the biggest pulls to me of New World, and always was this sort of war dynamic and how teams think about it, how you play together, and how do you overcome, and how do you, when you lose a war, what do you do the next time so that you can be better? And I think that adds this other dimension of New World PvP that is so fun if you've never experienced it, and something you should really grind for. So overall, game fluidity and combat, buttery smooth. It's amazing, and it makes you want to just keep on playing, and you have this weird itch that you're trying to crave because you just want to play it all day. At least for me, I don't know if it's just a me thing. I'd love to hear in the comments below if it's just a me thing, but that's how I'm feeling about game fluidity and all that stuff. All right, now everybody knows I'm not a huge PvEer, but I do it, and I promise you, especially Harry, if you're out there, I know you're out there somewhere. If I will do more PvE, and I'll get PvE content out there. That means healer PvE meta stuff, healer PvP meta stuff. What can you do for mutations? I want to be a more dynamic and all-encompassing player. And I have knowledge of it. I just never really did it because it wasn't appealing to me, but I see the need. I'm more interested now given everything that's happening. And so let's get into that. I want to talk about first expeditions. We have 2 new ones that look crazy. They look so fun. They look interesting. And anybody, again, if you haven't played since they added in even Tempest and put in the new first expedition, you will be shocked. All the expeditions look great, but the way that they started to develop these new ones, the mechanics of them, the design of them, the loot drops that happen in them, it's much more appealing to be like, hey, I'm going to be a PvE player, as opposed to the day oneers who were sitting there trying to sell tuning orbs. And 2, tuning orbs are out of the game. I forgot you got a bunch of chests if you had a bunch of tuning orbs. But if you were one of those people that was grinding Laz and Genesis to get your 0.1% chance of getting your 600 gear score WOTA to drop, and you just kept grinding Laz and Laz and Laz and spending money on orbs, well, there's a bunch of different stuff, right? There's Umbral shards to upgrade. You can now get materia to craft specific items if they're not dropping, like me, because I never got like sagacious stuff that I wanted to try that I'm never going to end up using. And then there's so much just combat feels better in the expeditions because the mechanics feel different. And even though you have this more simple PvE style of, okay, I'm going to keep left clicking, left clicking, left clicking. I've only got 3 abilities. It's much more simpler in that sense compared to PvP. But I could argue that mechanics that they're going to start to integrate in the way that things are going to work, and especially with the potential that New World has, that it is going to be beautiful. And especially start to get into mutators, they're adding new affixes constantly. And if you have never done a mutator, go do it. It's the premier PvE content. And I think that the PvE future of this game is where a lot of that focus is going to start to go towards. And you can clearly see that even if you start to think about stuff like questing, new zones, but general just PvE content. And it feels amazing. Okay, let's talk gold making, sort of New World commerce, the trade market. What does all that look like? I will say there's a ridiculous amount of gold out there. That's the one thing. If you're somebody that hasn't played in a little while, you don't have a ton of gold, it's going to be like, obviously it's expensive to buy like this items, but stuff gets expensive. But you also have the opportunities to make way more money with all of the new items that they've added, the new ways to get things, the new gathering system stuff. Then let's get into sort of the company structure of gold. A lot of companies make a lot of gold simply because they own a territory, and they're bringing in millions of gold on big servers. So one, if you're in one of those companies, a lot of them are probably very good about splitting up gold or giving you the things you need. But 2, if you're a player that's in maybe it's just a PvE focused company and you don't do much PvP, How do you make money, right? How do you get gear? There's opportunities. Obviously, it's easier, but I think that's what the grind is. It's okay, I'm going to make money. I'm going to get these BIS pieces. I'm going to keep learning the game. I'm going to start to try and jump into wars. And I think that this is not necessarily a economy related thing, but this is going to open up some territory for it. How can they rework the war system to be more inclusive for general players? I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure if that's ever something that we can really start to get super into. I think there's opportunities for everybody to get into wars, especially with fresh start servers. That's a good way. I mean, even smaller pop servers, the higher the server pop is, the more premier it's going to be, the more competitive and intense. So you have to make a name for yourself, but ultimately that's the whole aside. Economy feels good. And in general, too, I think with New World, it has a very interesting system where you can set up your own operations and buy orders, right? And then get them into sell orders, kind of manipulating the market. I think it's one of the most interesting games when it comes to market manipulation. There's so much you can do, so much you can take advantage of, and definitely things I'll be making videos on. So keep your eyes out for that. But find your own system. I think that's the funnest part about the economy is you don't have to just be in a big company. You can make your own little Apple empire just buying and selling apples all day. It will work. People buy anything, sell everything. Figure out your system and what's fun to you. And that adds another dimension of New World that's just even more exciting. All right, I know I've kind of touched on this throughout the entirety of it, but let's talk about the new content that is here. So we have Brimstone, 2 new expeditions. If you haven't played in a while, there's stuff like arenas. There's a new weapon, the Great Sword, which is a ton of fun. There's general mutators being added. We're going back to mutators like adding in Starstone, or even just going into those early dungeons. You started to see those, but continuing to go back. And the thing with all this new content is that there's probably been, if you look at the Brimstone update, you can kind of see that as like a pseudo expansion. And it's going to give you a lot of good directionality as to where the game is going to go. So if you look at Brimstone, in Brimstone, we have the entire zone with quest and revamped quests. There's cutscenes. There's actual things happening in the quest. You're doing actual things. In Brimstone, there's all these runes you got to go collect, like hidden runes, so that you can open up these different daily cooldown chests. There's all sorts of different things going on in elite zones. There's like specific boss spawn elite zones where you have, I think, what was I doing? Kefri, is that what it's called? I don't remember, but you unlock a door, you sit there, beetle guy comes out, all these people are around, you got to kill them, and then you can unlock all these like bubbled chests around, and it's on a daily cooldown timer cooler. There's this little scorpion guy you got to go kill, and there's chests up there. But there's all sorts of new items, new mobs to kill, new stuff in that area, and it is more content than we've seen in the general throughout the entire first year of New World. In just that one zone, you can tell how much time they started to put into it, but you can tell how much that the content they have is impacted by their refinement process of how they've developed the game. And so when somebody comes up to you and it's like, yeah, you're one, they added in one new zone and all these things in the zone, some of you might be going like, whatever, like some games do a whole expansion. Yeah, that's true. And there wasn't a level increase or a gear score increase. But I think what it is that all of the content we're playing feels so fresh and new because one, New World does a great job of making sure you're going back to other zones when it comes to things like war, invasions, or pushing a territory, or even collecting things, right? There's only certain things you can collect in some zones or even some of the elite zones. But the other thing is that because they've sort of revolutionized the way the game feels, every zone you go into when you're doing something, it feels a little bit new in a way. And so I think that's the biggest pull is that when you come back, the game, yes, there's new content, but the entirety of everything that's there and everything you're used to also feels new. Even things like, it's weird, but even seeing like Asmodeum has a legendary background and other things have purple backgrounds, it feels new in a sense, and it's a little bit more exciting. So there's weird things like that I think ultimately the new content makes everything feel new, which makes this sort of year one expansion feel so much bigger than it really is. But even the content that is there is so good. And I think it's a predictor of the future. So with the direction the future is going, it's going to be much more feasible for larger content updates like mounts that have been discussed and not I don't think they're officially announced. They might be officially announced, but no date in sight. It makes big things. So for instance, why would we need a mount, right? The zones are getting big. They're pretty big and it's annoying to travel around sometimes, but what else new are they going to start to add? Like a whole new continent eventually with expansion related stuff. So if you start to see all of these little cookie crumbs coming together into the big cookie, it's super exciting. That's what's really driving me to make a video like this because I am just over the moon excited and happy about where the game's at. So I could talk about this all day, but I feel like in each section I've kind of just kept saying, go try the game, go play it, what feels new. So I'm gonna give a little TLDR, give you a little summary of all of the things and reasons why I 100% 10 out of 10 support people coming back to New World, myself included. And I'm so grateful to be back and to be here and be ready to make new content for all of you. Just all the whispers, DMs I've gotten. You can always reach out to me in game or reach out in Discord. But TLDR, what do we have? RTA, Fresh Start, and normal servers feel great. The RTA and Fresh Start are great. One, from a sense of events happening in the game are going to continue getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But Fresh Start opens up seasonal content sort of thoughts. And just the idea of even just having a Fresh Start server all the time is great and exciting. Next, normal servers. Return to the normal servers. There's new content. There's people you probably haven't talked to in a while. The community feels great, and the stuff that you're doing is so much fun. Next thing, game fluidity and combat. It feels buttery smooth. It feels so good. It feels so different. And another reason why the game actually feels completely new and like a different game, there's nothing ungodly broken, like people huffing glue and throwing black holes out of their great axes and throwing your ice shower on top and spinning around. It's so good. It's so good. I can't believe I'm saying that. And then the new content, Brimstone, is exciting. It shows the cutscenes. It shows the new questing experience. Even the enraging thing of doing parkour to get smacked off by a goat that has extra knockback makes me smile. And the new content that is here is just a taste of what this game can become and what we've been saying for a while. Obviously, it's still going to take some time. But if you look back a year ago to now, the game is at a point where it should have been at release to hold tons of people. But all I can say is that I'm thankful for where it's at now, because I'm excited to stay on this journey, to go back on this journey and be here with all of you. Come back, play the game, give it a shot, and please let me know how you feel about it. Also below, let me know what else you want to see. What other stuff? What have people not been doing? I've been watching the YouTube and I'm not seeing New World content for a lot of things that I think should be there, for things that are broken builds, guides, everything. So please let me know what you haven't been seeing that you wish you would have been seeing. Discord, another thing. We're going to work on that. I got Dan. Dan's going to help me out with some of that stuff, but we're going to revamp some of the Discord stuff. I know people have been using it. I haven't really been present there. I'm going to be more present. But if you just want updates on videos, you want a little place to talk, a little place to ask questions, go ahead, go over there. Next, you can join that Discord, just the other thing, and you can message me at any point in time. Whether it's you have a question, you want to go over a VOD, you want to talk, you want to do anything, you need somebody just to say, hey, I'm having a tough day, talk to me, I'm here. That's what I'm here for. So go ahead, do that. I want you to keep your eyes open. I want you to be excited. And again, I look forward to hearing from all of you. So if you could please keep doing that weird YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, tell your grandma, your grandpa, tell everybody you know. I'd appreciate it. And ultimately, I look forward to talking to anybody about New World. So, as always, I haven't said this in a while, and it makes me happy to say it. But as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you to every single one of you beautiful people for being you. Peace.